Yo, what's good, Laker Nation? Sit down, drop everything. Because what just happened over the last 24 hours in the international sports media, starting with an explosive interview that Sasha Doncic, Luka'S father, gave to the Slovenian outlet Ekipa yesterday afternoon, and continuing with the emergency ESPN sit-down that Luka Doncic himself had to do this morning to control the damage, is the most surreal, most embarrassing, most family drama-infused story to hit this franchise in the modern era, and I mean it. Luka's dad, the former Slovenian pro basketball player, the guy who has been Luka's biggest advocate since Luka was 5 years old, publicly destroyed the Los Angeles Lakers organization in Slovenian media yesterday. He named names. He named Rob Pelinka. He named Jeannie Buss. He said Luka is being disrespected and that we are already looking at other franchises for Luka's future. And now Luka, the most valuable player on the Lakers roster, the future of the franchise, has been forced to publicly address his father's comments on live American television. And what Luka said was not what anyone was expecting. Let me walk you through every single word of this ridiculous, unprecedented family situation, because this is the biggest embarrassment in Lakers history. Real quick, like button pushes this to every Lakers fan across America. Smash it. 1 second, massive impact. Context. Yesterday afternoon, Sasha Doncic, Luka's father, a former professional basketball player in Slovenia and a well-known public figure in Slovenian media, gave a 2-hour interview to the country's biggest sports outlet, Ekipa, and what Sasha said in that interview went nuclear globally within hours. He accused the Lakers organization of disrespecting Luka. He said Rob Pelinka has been treating Luka like a foreigner instead of a franchise cornerstone. He said Jeannie Buss has not made the personal investment in Luka's future that other owners make in their stars. And most explosively, he said if the Lakers don't fix these problems in the next 12 months, we are already having conversations with other franchises about Luka's future. Now, that quote was translated to English by Wojnarowski at ESPN within 2 hours of the interview publishing. It went viral globally. Every NBA reporter picked it up. And by this morning, Luka Doncic had no choice but to respond publicly to defend himself, his father, and his own future in Los Angeles. Luka appeared on ESPN SportsCenter this morning with Malika Andrews. He was in Slovenia. You could see the Bled Lake in the background of his hotel window. He was wearing a plain white t-shirt, looked tired, looked frustrated. And when Malika opened by asking about his father's interview, Luka's response was the sentence that made everyone lean forward. Malika, before I answer any question about my father's interview, I need to tell the Lakers fan base and the American media something very important. My father does not speak for me. My father speaks for himself. That is a very important distinction that has been lost in the last 24 hours of coverage. Bro. The studio went quiet because Luka just publicly disowned his father's comments on live American television to a global audience. That is unprecedented. Because in Slovenian culture, in most European sports cultures, a player's father is considered essentially a family spokesman. Everything the father says is assumed to reflect the son's opinion, and in one sentence, Luka just shattered that assumption globally. He publicly separated himself from his father's statements. That's a huge deal internationally. Malika, doing her job, pushed. She said, Luka, your father specifically said we are already having conversations with other franchises. Is that true? Have you had those conversations? And Luka's answer here was as diplomatic as it was devastating. Malika, I love my father. He is the reason I am who I am as a basketball player. He was my first coach, my first mentor, my first agent, essentially. But my father is a Slovenian man of a certain generation. He watches basketball. He has opinions. He talks to Slovenian journalists. And sometimes, when a father speaks about his son's career, his personal feelings, his hopes, his fears, his desires, those come out in ways that a professional agent would never let happen. What my father said yesterday in Ekipa was his opinion, not mine. There are no conversations happening with other franchises. There is no plan to leave Los Angeles. There is no dissatisfaction with the Lakers organization on my part. My father was frustrated after a long summer of watching me deal with critics and injury talk, and he vented in front of a Slovenian microphone. I am extremely embarrassed by what he said, and I have already had a private conversation with him about the importance of letting me handle my professional life through my professional channels. Y'all, Luka just publicly embarrassed his own father on national American television. He called his father's comments an unprofessional venting session. He said he is extremely embarrassed by them. He publicly told his dad, through the media, to stay out of professional basketball business. That is a massive cultural moment for Slovenian families and European sports family dynamics, because this stuff is usually handled privately, but Luka clearly felt the damage was so severe that he had to address it in the most public, most direct way possible. Malika followed up. She said, "Luka, what's your actual current relationship with Rob Pelinka?" And Luka's answer here was the crucial political statement. "Malika, my current relationship with Rob Pelinka is professional and it is respectful. I want to be very clear about this. Rob and I have had many productive conversations over the last year. We do not always agree on every basketball decision, and no player and general manager should always agree. That's not how healthy organizations work. But there is no drama between me and the Lakers front office that would require the kind of statements my father made yesterday. That is why I'm here on ESPN today, to directly refute the narrative that has been created about my situation. I want to be a Los Angeles Laker for the rest of my career. I have said this publicly many times. I will say it again today. Rob Pelinka is my general manager. I trust him. I trust Jeannie Buss. I trust JJ Redick. And whatever internal challenges we face, those will be resolved internally, not through Slovenian media outlets. Man, that was a political masterclass from Luka, because he just did 4 things in one paragraph. Defended Rob Pelinka publicly, disowned his father's comments, committed to Los Angeles long term, and made clear that whatever internal disagreements happen would stay internal. That is exactly the response Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka needed to see. And Luka's presence on American television, and with his physical appearance, his tone, his emotional exhaustion, sent the message globally that he is fully committed to being a Laker. But Malika did push further. She asked, "Luka, all due respect, your father's comments about the disrespect he perceives, about the lack of personal investment from ownership, did any of that resonate with you at all? Do you feel any disrespect from the Lakers front office?" And this is where Luka's answer got more nuanced, more honest, and more interesting. "Malika, I'm going to give you a very honest answer, because the fan base deserves honesty. There have been moments this summer during the Austin Reeves negotiation, during the questions about my father's role in my career, during some of the media coverage I've read, where I have felt like an outsider in the Lakers organization. I want to acknowledge that, not because I am disrespected, I am not, but because being an international player in the American sports media environment is different than being an American player. There are cultural things that get lost. There are jokes that don't land the same way. There are assumptions about my family and my body that would never be made about American stars. And my father, who watches all of this from Slovenia, feels those cultural differences more sharply than I do, because he doesn't live inside American media the way I do. That's the context for why he vented the way he vented. He was not wrong to be frustrated. He was wrong in his method of expressing it. And that's a distinction we as a family are still learning to navigate. Laker Nation, I got emotional watching that answer, because Luka just did something really vulnerable. He acknowledged that being an international superstar in the American media environment has been hard on him and his family. That's a rare admission, and it explains so much about why his father might have snapped in that interview, not because the Lakers are secretly doing something wrong, but because being a European player in Los Angeles is culturally exhausting for a family that watches everything from thousands of miles away in a small European country. Then Malika asked about Austin Reeves, because the two stories are obviously connected. She said, "Luka, Austin Reeves publicly demanded a trade this week. Where does your relationship with Austin stand?" And Luka's answer here was class. "Austin is my brother. Austin and I have been through everything together over the last year, and I want to say publicly, Austin's frustration is legitimate. This organization did handle his contract negotiation poorly. Rob has already acknowledged that privately, and I fully support Austin's right to advocate for what he deserves. If Austin is traded, I will be devastated, but I will also understand, because Austin is a professional who has earned the right to make decisions about his own career. And whatever happens with him, I want the fans to know that our friendship is not tied to whether we are teammates or not. It's for life, so I hope the Lakers find a way to keep him. But if they don't, I'll be rooting for him wherever he lands. And I'll still be trying to win a championship in LA. Both things can be true. Beautiful." That's Luka being the big picture leader, supporting Reeves' individual right to seek his value, publicly acknowledging the front office mishandled things, but also committing to the Lakers' future regardless. That is franchise quarterback level leadership. That's the kind of statement that fans want to hear from their franchise player. The final moment came at the end. Malika asked Luka about his father directly. She said, "Luka, what happens next between you and your dad?" And Luka's answer here was the most human moment of the interview. "Malika, my father and I are going to have a very long dinner tonight in Bled, and I am going to explain to him again that his role in my career has to be that of my father, not my agent, not my spokesman, not my franchise strategist. His job is to love me, to give me advice privately, to be my dad. My professional life has professional people to handle it." And when he speaks to Slovenian media about my future, and that hurts everybody. It hurts me. It hurts the Lakers. It hurts the fans. So my message to my dad tonight will be simple. I love you. Thank you for everything, but please let me handle this. And I trust that after tonight, we will not have another situation like this again. That's a promise to Laker Nation, and it's a promise to my dad. That moment, that was the most humanizing thing Luka has ever done publicly. Because you could hear the love, you could hear the frustration, and you could hear a young man in his 20s dealing with the extremely awkward situation of publicly correcting his own father on ESPN. That is real, that is raw, and it's the kind of moment that actually endears you more to Luka as a person. Then he thanked Malika, signed off, and the entire NBA world just sat back and processed the most bizarre 24-hour cycle we've had this offseason. Let me give you my analysis, Laker Nation. Because this was not what anyone expected, Luka just did 5 things in one 25-minute interview. Number 1, he publicly disowned his father's Akipa comments. Number 2, he committed long-term to the Lakers organization and named Pelinka as his GM. Number 3, he acknowledged the cultural difficulty of being an international star in the American media. Number 4, he publicly supported Austin Reeves' trade demand and legitimized it. Number 5, he showed the world a genuinely human moment of family conflict management. That is a Hall of Fame interview performance, especially for someone in a defensive posture. Here's what I think is coming. This whole story is going to blow over in about 5 to 7 days, because Luka handled it perfectly. He didn't defend his dad, but he didn't attack him either. He committed to the Lakers, but he didn't ignore Austin's issues. He addressed the cultural challenges without playing victim. That is insane emotional dexterity from a 27-year-old. Rob Pelinka is exhaling right now. Jeannie Buss is exhaling right now. Because Luka Doncic just publicly killed the "I'm going to leave the Lakers" narrative before it could become a season-long problem.